talking about this. I'm thinking we're in the Townhouse Studios. This is the last day of recording of If I Should Fall From Grace with God. They're recording a song that's taken them 2 years to put into shape. Were you aware when you were sort of arranging the French horns and the strings that this had been a long journey, or were you just thinking, here's a beautiful song and I'm going to work on it? I don't know if you were aware of all that history.
At the time when I met with the band and Steve Lillywhite to discuss my role, I had no idea that it had this history. I mean, it even was a different story at one time. And I think Fairytale of New York, the actual title, the inspiration's from JP Dunleavy.
Yeah.
So no, I wasn't aware. And if I may go back to that initial meeting with the guys and Steve Lillywhite, they gave me as a reference Ennio Morricone's score for Once Upon a Time in America.
Right.
And it's only latterly I've realised that the opening of Deborah's theme, which is a beautiful tune from Once Upon a Time in America, is almost note for note the opening of. Do you know?
I know it. Yeah, I know it. So, yeah.
So here's Deborah's theme, right? So on.
Yes.
So I want to go on playing because
it's
such a beautiful song, and the space Ennio Morricone leaves in it. You know, I can't remember why, picture-wise, it does, but there's these long gaps. I mean, so you have one phrase, a long sustained on basis and whatever. Then it just sits there.
Nice.
Anyway,
I know the guys had been watching Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio Leone film, on the tour bus, loved it and loved the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, did they? You obviously found out later on, but did they even hint that? We've sort of, taken more than inspiration. We've sort of taken a little bit of the sweat from.
It might not have been a conscious thing.
Right.
They do say there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, you could probably find lots of tunes that use
those.
But it is true. So if you put it into the Fairytale of New York key, I mean, it's the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. No.
But I don't think that's the main reason that they mentioned Once Upon a Time in America. They liked what the strings and Morricone's.
And I just say it happens again and again. I know Bowie's been happy to admit that Starman, the chorus, is basically Somewhere Over the Rainbow. There's a starman. So there's these kind of beautiful, in a way, they're little kind of kisses to a song that you've got in your head and that you love. And so I don't think
nothing new under the sun.
There you go. Yeah. Now, what I thought when I first heard it, and like everybody else, it was released on the 21st, I think, November 1987. Just a stunning piece of work, and it was almost, seemed to be unreal, because here's this sort of drunken Irish, punk band who have made what in my mind was like something Tom Waits would have done on Heart Attack and Violent Act. The sort of, the drunkard with the Nelson Riddle orchestra behind them, lamenting a lost love or lamenting life. And I don't know whether any of that was sort of discussed, or whether there was just a natural organic feeling, well, this is of course where we're going to go with this. This is the kind of song it is. And
well, I'm glad you mentioned the word organic, because that would be my approach to writing strings, not just for that song. In general, I try to find elements within the track that's already laid down, and embellish or enhance or utilize those to be part of the strings, so the strings then become a part of an organic whole. That's my approach.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm sort of saying I don't want the arrangement to take to sit up and be taken notice of too much. It should feel like it's in the spirit of whatever.
Well, it's like a soundtrack. You shouldn't really notice it, and yet at the same time, it is evocative, and it takes you into another space and so were you aware then, as I said, the 2 year, I don't know, were you aware shortly afterwards? Was there a sense, like, there's Jem Finer and Shane MacGowan wrote the song. Jem had two versions of the song early on. One, he liked the lyrics and hated the music, and the other one, he liked the music and hated the lyrics, and then eventually he gave it to Shane, who took it away. And in fact, he said he had pneumonia on a Scandinavian tour, and he said in that fever dream, it all just seemed to come to him.
Fell together, yeah.
Yeah, which is sometimes.
No, as I said, I wasn't really aware of it at the time.
Right.
And much later, I'm reading about it. That it had such a checkered history.
But it must have felt, I'm sure, special because, as I said, it took me by surprise. I was well into the Pogues, and I just couldn't quite, get my head around. This is amazing. How do they go there? Because Rum Sullivan the Lash had been such a great big impact, and you're talking about Dirty Old Town and Sally McLennan and all that. This just seemed from another time. Was that part of their kind of thinking with you? Was it that with those strings, with that sense of this is not, our typical, Irish ballad? Maybe they'd always, with Rainy Night in Soho, maybe they'd always sort of touched upon this.
Well, as you mentioned, Rainy Night in Soho, that was my first meeting with them, and in fact, Elvis Costello was at the helm on that one.
Right.
That was the first time they called on a string arranger, and then I didn't see them for another year until got the call about Fairytale of New York.
And again, Rainy Night's very organic. I mean, I don't know whether you were a little bit wary going in that were they just sort of wanting to put, something a bit odd on it, or it's a bit different? Were they messing? Or, I don't know, because Rainy Night in Soho was also a beautiful song. I mean, did you have any reluctance or any kind of pre kind of conceptions about the Pogues when they asked you to work on a song with them?
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all.
All right.
No. I mean, I knew their work. Didn't we all?
Yeah.
Do you remember, as you say, it was released in November 1987, A Fairytale of New York. Yeah. God, I remember the excitement in our house, because our boys were then, let's say, 87. They were young anyway.
Right.
Okay,
yes.
3 and 1 or 4 and 2, I can't remember now. And was it going to make number one? Was it going to make number one? And it was pipped, as you remember, by
feckin' Pet Shop Boys.
I
never forgive them.
Which is a nice song, but nothing.
Always on my mind, but not a classic. And certainly their recording isn't, I should say, in the classic of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, the song that survived from that. Second place.
We should say it's the most played song in the UK, most played Christmas song of the 21st century. It's been in the top 20 every year since 2005. Yeah. It has come back in the charts.
Absolutely.
It has that, and it's often voted by many people around the world, despite the fact that it has Scumbag and Maggot and Cheap Lousy Faggot in there. Yeah. And I think it's because there's a kind of a grit in amidst all that sentimentality. You want It's a Wonderful Life. You want that sense of life can be a mess, and yet ultimately you've got to believe in each other, and got to believe in love and Christmas and all the rest.
It is an anti-Christmas song, really.
Yes,
But I've been listening to Christmas FM just yesterday. Most of it is, it's fairly saccharine. There's some, for me, some discoveries, Christmas songs I never heard before, and there's all the regular ones are crowded out. But Bing Crosby and White Christmas and so on, Little Drummer Boy. But Fairytale of New York comes up as well. It's like it's crazy, I think. Well, no, it's not crazy, but it's an anti-Christmas song.
Sure.
And here it's sitting amongst all this tinsel and stuff. It's about two drunks and
it is sort of seen, and About a Boy touched on it, when you have your Christmas hit, you're set for life, and bands have often attempted such things and doesn't always work for them, and of course Slade and people like that and Wham have had great kind of success with their Christmas songs, and yet despite the fact that it is a tough nut to crack, you yourself are still there. Like Carmel, your partner, was just released on Christmas Eve. Don Mescal and yourself wrote it. I mean, is that so, when you're putting out a Christmas song, you kind of know that you put all your heart into it, and you hope it's a beautiful song, but it's a strange, almost alternative universe where these songs exist, where some people just adore them like Eurovision, or they just want them around them 24 hours a day, and others just think this is only for Christmas and I never want to hear it again. I mean, I don't know whether it was a little bit of a challenge, beyond the normal songwriting, to say this is a Christmas song. Yeah, on Christmas Eve,
It was in November. I had been writing with Don a little bit, and I came with this chord progression. We were in theatre, and Don said, "Oh, that sounds like a Christmas song." And he's very quick, with the lyrics. Right. He'll like just sort of go play that again, and they come out so quickly, and he'll fine tune them afterwards. It's almost it's like a bard or something. You know, somebody who has this instant ability to write lyrics. I'm just fascinated, you know. With this. Anyway, that song was written in a very short time because he has this, you know. So I'm feeding him chords and melodies, and it's coming like that. You know?
Well, I think the quickness often lets you know that it's something genuine, that you just felt it all the way through. It wasn't like you chiseled away and you end up with a dented car with, you know, you kept trying to beat it into shape. I mean, famously, Paul McCartney had woke up from a nightmare and the frog chorus was all in his head and it was all complete. And but he had Yesterday.
A lovely story about Paul McCartney. He apparently he would play a song he'd newly written to his kids, and they'd sort of say, "Oh, I've heard that one before, Dad." And he said, "Great, another hit."
If it sounds familiar, I've done my job. Yes. So, do you sort of feel, would it be a nonsense, especially the way people consume music now, is so disposable that they can just, you know, download a song off their phone and right away, and there's a sort of you know, that feeling that it's not as tangibly part of their life. They don't have a copy of it on their shelf, but yet songs like this probably will always last. There isn't that fear that technology will send you off into the outer space and you'll never kind of have that grip on people. I think great songs will always survive no matter what the medium is.
You just answered the question.
There you go. That's my tendency. I don't leave a question mark. I just make a statement, and you just a yes or no answer is fine. But do you ever get a chill, because the last 20 years have been hugely impactful on how music is made and then also how it's released. I mean, was there ever a kind of a period of this has all gone to shit, or did you always think, well, the music will get through this?
The model is broken. I mean, the idea of people being signed to record labels and so forth, and indeed record companies, that's all disappearing. The clever ones have embraced the digital, the download, the streaming technology. But if somebody sold, we'll say, 14,000, and this is within Ireland, somebody sold 14,000 discs 10 years ago, they'd be in the charts.
Right.
If they sell 2,000 discs now, they're in the charts. I mean, the people are not buying the physical product.
That's it,
anymore. I think that the charts, though, now embrace what people are downloading.
What they're playing and streaming and all that, which is great. Yeah, so it sort of does add to a real, genuine reflection of what are people listening to.
People are listening to, but not necessarily what they're buying.
Right. Well, I think it's gone back to the kind of rock and roll days of really it's on tour that people make their money now. They just put out the records almost like a shop front, that this is our latest songs, and hopefully you'll come out and see us when we hit your town, because that's actually money at the counter as opposed to free downloads and all the rest. I should say now, with the Fairytale song, as I've kind of said it, really, I just feel that's a song that probably will always sustain. That, you know, there's a handful really of that.
It'll be up there with White Christmas and a few others like that.
And did that strike you at any time, like early on? Did you sort of realise that? Was it just a good day in the office, or did you sort of think, oh, this is not your ordinary everyday song?
Yeah, I wouldn't be that blasé, shall we say? You have to see that. I had to see that it was something special. Yeah. But yes, in the sense of I had a job to do. Yes, it was a day at the office, but it was a kind of special day.
We should give a shout out now. Of course, in those early 2-year kind of growth of the song, Elvis Costello had produced Rum Sullivan the Lash. He's in there. He's now Cato Reardon, the bass player who sang a few of the songs. She was originally the duet with Shane, but relationships with Elvis and the Pogues kind of faded, and then Kath herself sort of left the band, and really a kind of another couple come in and saved the day, because the great Steve Lillywhite, who produced U2 and many other great albums, he comes in and kind of on a, I wouldn't say it was a whim, but he took the recording home. Shane had recorded both the vocals, put his beautiful wife Kirsty in there. And lo and behold, a classic was born.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing people doing, like Christy Moore, for instance. He does a solo version of it. Yeah. And it's not quite the same thing, because you don't have that lovely dialogue going on. You took all my
It's like a screwball comedy, really. You need the other person to bounce off with the lines. I'm not decrying Christy Moore's version, I think, but it is very different when you don't have that
dial got going. I must tell you a funny thing about. You mentioned you're drunk. You keep you're drunk.
You keep lazy faggot. Yeah.
When Kirsty was when the Pogues were to do it on Top of the Pops, the BBC. Somehow they let that through, but they couldn't
mention the word Irish.
Couldn't go for "Merry Christmas, My Ass," right? So I was doing a session at Mickey Mouse Studio in North London there, and I was doing a session for Kirsty. We were doing strings or brass or something on the album that I think the album's called Kite.
Right.
And Steve is in, and I'm just working with them. Steve is in another studio in the same building with Kirsty, revoicing my ass to become my Merry Christmas, my glass, which
Badoink, badoink. Yep, it rhymes and everything. Fair play, but
it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
There's always these connections in life. I love the fact that there's the beautiful Kirsty and her own father Ewan had written Dirty Old Town, which had already been a major kind of success for not only the Dubliners but then obviously the Pogues later on and Rum Sodomy. So there's always this kind of thread that you realise, that you're connected to this. In music especially, I think the connections are quite 2 or 3 steps and you're back to where you started from. And so I will say that it's just one of those perfect songs for me. And I do think that Shane, even today, probably gets a bit of a twinkle when he knows it's just out there forever, because work is work and you hope that people like it and they keep on to it, but that's something that'll live beyond all of us. So well done, my son.